In the vast forest of Jetavana, the trees whispered as the disciples gathered near the Buddha. His serene presence calmed their minds, drawing them into silence. The air carried the fragrance of blooming jasmine, mingled with the earthy scent of soil. Among the gathered monks, one rose, his face marked by doubt and yearning. I approached the Buddha with a mind weighed down by endless questions. My steps were hesitant, my thoughts restless and scattered. "Speak your question," the Buddha said, his voice carrying the weight of compassion. The monk hesitated but then found courage to speak. "Why do I face suffering when my actions have been pure and virtuous?" he asked. The Buddha inclined his head slightly, as if weighing the gravity of the question. "Do you understand the nature of the wheel of karma?" he asked. The monk shook his head, his expression open and seeking. "Master, I have heard of it but have not grasped its true meaning," the monk admitted. The Buddha gestured for him to sit, his movements fluid and purposeful. "Come closer," the Buddha said, addressing the entire assembly. "For this teaching concerns all who walk the path." The disciples shuffled closer, their robes rustling softly against the ground. The Buddha spoke, his tone measured and deliberate. "The wheel of karma is vast and intricate, yet its essence is simple." His words hung in the air, drawing the disciples deeper into contemplation. "Consider a farmer sowing seeds in a fertile field," the Buddha said, weaving a metaphor into his teaching. "Does the harvest come immediately upon planting?" he asked, his eyes scanning the gathering. A young disciple, eager to answer, said, "No, Master. The seed must germinate and grow with time and care." "Precisely," the Buddha said, his face lighting with approval. "Karma is like the seed. Its fruits ripen only when conditions align." The monks exchanged glances, their thoughts visibly engaging with the analogy. "Yet, know this," the Buddha continued. "The seeds you sow today shape the harvest of your tomorrow." His words carried both gravity and hope, resonating like a bell in the silent forest. The Buddha turned his attention back to the questioning monk. "You ask why virtue does not immediately shield you from pain," he said. The monk nodded, his brows knit in thought. "Understand," the Buddha said, "that your present suffering arises not from today's deeds but from the seeds of the past." A ripple of realization passed through the assembly, as if the forest itself acknowledged the truth in his words. To deepen their understanding, the Buddha began to recount a story. "Long ago, there was a merchant named Upali," he said, his voice steady and clear. Upali was wealthy but lacked wisdom, blinded by his own pride and desires. The disciples leaned in, their focus sharpening on the unfolding narrative. One day, a beggar approached Upali, seeking alms with humility and reverence. The Buddha continued. But Upali, consumed by arrogance, mocked the beggar and turned him away empty-handed. The Buddha paused, allowing his words to settle like seeds in the minds of his listeners. Years later, Upali found himself in dire circumstances. Betrayed by those he once trusted, he said. When his wealth and status crumbled, Upali sought refuge in despair and confusion. The disciples murmured among themselves, recognizing the karmic arc of the story. In his darkest moment, Upali came to me, seeking answers to his suffering. The Buddha said, "What did you tell him, Master?" a disciple asked, his curiosity uncontainable. The Buddha's gaze softened, his tone taking on an empathetic hue. "I told him that his suffering was not a punishment but the ripening of seeds he had sown," he said. "I also told him that his future was not fixed, for the power to transform lies in the present moment." His words kindled a flame of hope in the hearts of his disciples, illuminating their path forward. The questioning monk, still seated before the Buddha, bowed deeply in gratitude. "Master," he said, "how can one transform their present and future when bound by the past?" The Buddha smiled, his expression radiant yet grounded. By cultivating wisdom, compassion, and mindful action, he said, for these are the seeds that yield liberation. The disciples nodded in unison. Their resolve to walk the path visibly strengthened. The forest, once silent, now seemed alive with the echoes of the Buddha's teachings. Birds sang in harmony, as if paying tribute to the wisdom shared beneath the ancient trees. The Buddha's words lingered in the minds of his disciples long after they had dispersed. Their hearts carried the lesson forward, a guiding light in the cycles of their lives. And so, the truth of karma became not a burden but a source of empowerment for those who listened. Another day, another gathering at the bamboo grove in the city of Rajagaya, where the Buddha shared his teachings. The sunlight filtered through the towering stalks, casting shifting patterns on the forest floor. Disciples sat in attentive rows, their robes fluttering softly in the breeze. Among them, a Brahmin approached the Buddha, bowing deeply in respect. "Master," the Brahmin said, "I have lived by the rules of giving. Yet my heart remains restless and unfulfilled." The Buddha, seated on a simple mat, observed the Brahmin with calm and steady eyes. "Your question holds weight and importance," the Buddha said. "Tell me, what is the intention behind the acts of giving you describe?" The Brahmin hesitated, his face revealing an inner struggle. "I give to gain honor and recognition among my peers," the Brahmin confessed. Lowering his gaze, the Buddha's voice carried both compassion and clarity as he spoke. "The intention behind your actions shapes the fruits they bear," the Buddha said. The disciples leaned forward, sensing the depth of the lesson unfolding before them. "Consider this," the Buddha continued, weaving a story into his teaching. "A man tosses a stone carelessly into the water. The ripples it creates are erratic and disordered, spreading in uneven patterns," the Buddha explained. "Another man places a stone gently into the water, and the ripples form harmonious circles." The Brahmin's brow furrowed in thought, as he reflected on the analogy. The same stone, but different results. "What determines this difference?" the Buddha asked, guiding the Brahmin's contemplation. "It is the force behind the action that alters its outcome," the Brahmin said, his voice carrying newfound understanding. The Buddha nodded, acknowledging the Brahmin's insight. "So it is with karma," the Buddha said. "The intention behind your deeds determines their weight and direction." The disciples exchanged quiet whispers, resonating with the wisdom imparted by their master. To deepen the Brahmin's understanding, the Buddha recounted the story of Kisa Gotami. Kisa Gotami was a mother who lost her only child, the Buddha began, his tone steady yet gentle. Her grief overwhelmed her, driving her to seek a remedy for her suffering. The disciples listened intently, their hearts opening to the poignant tale unfolding before them. "Kisa approached me, pleading for a way to restore her child to life," the Buddha said. "I told her to bring a mustard seed from a household untouched by death." The Brahmin's eyes widened, sensing the profound lesson embedded within the narrative. In her search, Kisa visited many homes, only to find that every household had known suffering and loss. Her grief transformed into understanding, for she saw the universality of pain and impermanence, the Buddha continued. Through her suffering, Kisa gained insight and transcended her own despair. The disciples murmured in agreement, their faces reflecting the depth of their engagement with the story. The Brahmin, moved by the tale, spoke again. "Master, how can intention lead to liberation, rather than merely to better karma?" he asked. The Buddha's gaze remained steady, his response carrying the weight of truth. When intention stems from compassion and wisdom, it aligns with the path to freedom, the Buddha said. "Consider the lotus flower," the Buddha continued, weaving another metaphor into his teaching. "Though rooted in the mud, it blossoms pure and untainted above the water." The disciples nodded, their faces revealing the clarity brought by the analogy. Intention rooted in ego binds you to the wheel of karma, but intention rooted in selflessness liberates, the Buddha said. The Brahmin bowed deeply, his heart visibly touched by the wisdom shared with him. Master, I see now that my giving has lacked the purity of selfless intent, the Brahmin said. The Buddha's serene expression held a trace of encouragement. As he spoke, you hold the power to transform your actions by transforming the intention behind them, the Buddha said. As the gathering concluded, the forest seemed to breathe alongside the disciples, harmonizing with the truths revealed. The air carried the weight of wisdom, resonating within the hearts of all who listened. The disciples dispersed, their minds alive with reflection, their resolve strengthened to walk the path of intention and mindfulness. And so, the ripples of the Buddha's teachings spread far beyond the bamboo grove, touching lives in ways unseen. Another day, another journey to Vulture's Peak, where the Buddha's disciples gathered to hear his profound teachings. The morning air carried the scent of fresh dew, mingling with the faint aroma of sandalwood incense. The Buddha sat in serene composure, his presence radiating peace and wisdom. The disciples arranged themselves in a semicircle, their faces reflecting eager anticipation. One monk stepped forward, bowing deeply before the Buddha. Master, the monk said, I seek understanding of liberation beyond karma. The Buddha gazed at the monk, his expression gentle yet penetrating. Your question touches the core of existence, the Buddha said. The disciples leaned in, sensing the depth and significance of the topic being addressed. Karma governs the cycle of birth and rebirth, binding beings to the wheel of existence, the Buddha began. But liberation lies beyond karma, requiring a transcendence of self and illusion. The forest seemed to hold its breath, attuned to the wisdom flowing from the Buddha's words. Tell me, the Buddha said, addressing the assembly, what creates the self that clings to karma's threads? A senior monk replied, Master, it is attachment and ignorance that weave the self. The Buddha nodded, his approval evident in the calm of his gaze. Consider this, the Buddha said, introducing a parable into his teaching. A bird trapped in a golden cage. The disciples listened intently, their minds attuning to the layers of meaning in his words. The bird sings, unaware that the cage confines its freedom, the Buddha explained. Only when the bird sees the cage for what it is can it seek liberation. To deepen their understanding, the Buddha recounted the story of Angulimala. Angulimala was a man bound by the dark karma of his violent deeds, the Buddha began. His heart was consumed by anger and ignorance, leading him down a path of harm and destruction. The disciples exchanged glances, recognizing the gravity of the story unfolding before them. One day, Angulimala encountered me on a forest path, seeking to harm and destroy, the Buddha said. I stood unmoving, radiating compassion and peace, unshaken by his presence. The monks leaned closer, captivated by the transformative power of the encounter. Struck by the purity of my presence, Angulimala fell to his knees. Weeping in surrender, the Buddha continued. Master, Angulimala had pleaded, can I escape the weight of my karma and find freedom? The disciples awaited the Buddha's reply with bated breath, as if sharing in Angulimala's moment of transformation. Abandon the notion of self, the Buddha had told Angulimala, and you will be free. For when there is no self, there is no one to suffer karma's effects. The Buddha paused, allowing the weight of his words to settle in the hearts of his disciples. Karma is not a cage but a mirror, reflecting the causes and conditions we create, the Buddha said. To transcend karma, one must transcend the self, seeing the truth of impermanence and interconnectedness. The disciples sat in silent reflection, their minds reaching toward the liberation revealed by their master. The questioning monk bowed deeply, his face radiant with gratitude and understanding. "Master," the monk said, "how can one begin to transcend the self and walk the path of liberation?" The Buddha's expression softened, his response carrying both compassion and clarity. "Begin by cultivating mindfulness and seeing the illusion of separation," the Buddha said. "Consider the ocean," the Buddha continued, weaving a metaphor into his teaching. "Its waves rise and fall, yet they remain part of the vast expanse." The disciples nodded, their faces reflecting the clarity brought by the analogy. "Like the waves, the self is an illusion within the greater truth of oneness," the Buddha said. As the gathering concluded, the forest seemed to exhale, harmonizing with the wisdom revealed beneath its ancient canopy. The disciples dispersed, their hearts carrying the lesson forward, their resolve strengthened to walk the path of liberation. The teachings of the Buddha rippled outward, touching lives in ways both seen and unseen. And so, the truth of liberation beyond karma illuminated the journey of those who listened. Another day, the Buddha sat beneath the Bodhi tree in the tranquil monastery, his presence serene and unwavering. A soft breeze rustled the leaves above, scattering shadows across the ground. Thank you for watching. Buddha's teachings are always with you. Subscribe to our channel and we will see you in the next video.